So let's get in with the story. Back in 2012, my wife Jenny and I had foster children. We had a soon-to-be mother and her youngest sister. In that time, our soon-to-be mother did have her baby, and our family, including us, embraced that child and loved that baby and that girl so much. Basically what happened is we decided that our foster children were doing everything that we had asked them to do as far as school goes, taking care of a child, doing their house chores. So we decided to take them out to a really nice dinner and to do their monthly shopping. In that time, we were on our way to drop off our foster daughter's baby to my sister-in-law, so that we can just take the girls out for a nice day, just us, without having to worry about a baby. So we're on our way to drop off the baby, and we lived in Victorville at the time. And in Victorville, there is a housing area called Reno Loop. Basically, it's a loop of houses that go around, and in the middle, it's another loop of houses. So there's a road that goes basically around in a circle to get to all of the houses and all the different streets. So my wife and I were driving down the street. We came to the stop sign to make a left to get ready to drop off the baby. We were only about a minute and a half away from my sister-in-law's house. My wife and I looked to the left of the stop sign, and we noticed, and at this time there was not really anybody around. It was kind of, when kids were getting off of school, but midday. It wasn't really busy. So when we looked to the left, both of us, and we saw 2 little girls and 5 people. We seen 1 little girl on the ground and 2 girls on this little girl. They were beating her up. They were basically kicking and punching her while she was on the ground. And there was another little girl that was up against the wall. And it was a brick wall that was, homes are behind this brick wall. So they had this little girl up against the brick wall, and they were punching her as well. My wife and I had our foster daughter in the back, her sister in the back, as well as the baby. Basically what happened is we saw this happening. We looked at each other. We didn't say one word to each other. My wife put the car in park. We told our foster daughter to lock the car doors, and we needed this to stop. You could obviously see that these kids were in peril. There was something that if we didn't do something at that time and we had just let this go, who knows what could have happened to these girls. So my wife and I got out of the car. We started yelling for them to stop, and in anybody's mind, you would think that when you're yelling at someone that's doing something wrong, they immediately would get startled or scared and run away. Well, when I came around to the other side, to the driver's side where my wife was, telling these people to stop and leave these girls alone, they basically turned their attention on us. So I'm just going to tell you that there was 5 people. There were 4 adults and a child, to what we could see. And at the time, we didn't know who these people were, where they came from, their ages, nothing. All we knew was that there were a tall lady, 2 girls, another girl, and a boy. So anyways, as we're yelling for them to stop and leave these girls alone, they basically rushed us, came straight at our car, fist blazing, ready to go. And we just told them, hey, we're not looking for a fight, but you need to let these girls go. Like, what you're doing is not right. And they didn't hear any of that. They basically were looking for a fight. I think that's what they wanted. It wasn't necessarily we were, being rude or disruptive. It was more like, okay, well, our attention is not on them anymore, so now it's going to be on you, and we're going to fuck you guys up. Sorry to say the language, but it is what it is. So at the time, the first lady came running up, and she came, like I said, fists ready to go. I told her, I don't want to fight. Please, let's just leave these girls alone. Well, as I'm looking at this lady with her fists ready to go, she did take a swing at me, and because I saw her getting ready, I ducked, and she missed me. So at that point, is when, this is the last part that I really remember, is Jenny pushing me to the other side of the car. And from there, I don't know what happened with her. Looking for a fight. So
is the other kids.
Yeah, see, so that's the part that I didn't see. So basically, the other girls that were there, I didn't see what was going on with them because Jenny was dealing with them. And they basically were trying to jump me. So when I got back to the other side of the car, which is my passenger side of the car, our kids are still in the car with the doors locked. The lady somehow got up against my car and I'm facing her. Then she swings again and lands directly to my head. So then at that point, it's, I'm going to defend myself. And I started fighting with her. Yes, I did what I had to do. I landed a few, whatever it is, but it came down to the part where I believe the other girls were trying to jump me and they were kicking me from behind. They were all trying to get me down on the ground, but I was up against my car. So I had in my mind, like, I'm not going down to the ground because I know exactly what they were looking for. Once they got me on the ground, that was it. So from there, I believe what my wife did was get those other girls off of me. She did not hit anybody. She just pulled them off of me, threw them to the ground. And while me and this woman are going at it, she grabs a hold of my hair, and I grabbed a hold of, she had a bandana with the twist in the, or the knot in the front. I remember that distinctly. She also had a scar right above her forehead. So I grabbed her scarf, the knot on her scarf, and I twisted it with my hand, and she had a hold of my hair, and she was just hitting me. And all I could do was kick. I couldn't get above her. She was taller than me. So while we're fighting up against my car, my wife comes in between us, and all I see is my wife's shoes because I'm looking, I'm being held with my head down. And then in that time of us fighting, she comes in between us. All of a sudden, all I seen was blood. Just blood. Like, so much blood. It was insane. I did not know. I thought the blood was coming from me because she was just bashing my head, you know what I mean? So I thought that the blood was coming from me. And I'm going to stray off of this for a second. Our kids that were in the car were watching this, okay? This is the hardest part for us, is that they had to witness this happen to someone they look up to and someone they love so much. Those girls love this woman. Like, my God, it was hard. But our foster daughter, I wish she wouldn't have, but I'm glad she did. She got out of the car and she called 911. She ran to the corner to see what street we were on, and in the midst of the fight, she was able to get the word to the police of what was going on, where we were, and once that happened, she got herself back in the car, and people were literally honking, get out of the street, get out of the street. Like, people weren't stopping to help, and I understand why. I get it. But after probably about 4 or 5 cars passing up, telling us to move out of the street while we're getting basically the ass beating of our lives, we had one couple actually stop and get out of the car and start yelling for them to stop what they were doing because they noticed that this was bad. So as soon as I started seeing all the blood, the lady finally let my head go, and when I finally put my head up, all I could see was them running away. And then I took a look at my wife, which was standing to the right of me, and she was covered in blood. She had been stabbed in her temple with a key. And when I mean a key, I mean the key that you open your house door with, you know? So in the midst of us going to town and fighting, she managed to pull keys out of her pocket, and when my wife came between us to stop us from fighting, she hit my wife. and gave her a 2.5-inch deep cut with about a 4-inch length scar. Now I think back to that day, and I think back to that time, and I know if my wife wouldn't have come in between us, that blow would have been for me, and who knows if I would have been able to handle that. So as I'm looking at my wife and I'm in complete shock, there's blood. I mean, it was insane. There was blood everywhere. I immediately ran to my car, I popped open my trunk, and I grabbed the first thing that I could find to stem the bleeding, and it was one of my foster kids' sweaters, and I grabbed it. I didn't care. I'll replace the sweater. I put it on her head, and I just pushed her up against the brick wall, and I told her to stand there, put pressure on the bleeding, and do not move. I told her, please, whatever you do, do not close your eyes. And she just felt so dizzy, and I fell into this rage of anger of how someone could possibly bring themselves to harm children, to harm children, and then to do something so heinous like try to kill somebody over this is just, it's beyond me, you know. When I asked my wife, like, how did she feel in those moments, she told me I felt like I was gonna die. She said that she could feel a calmness come over her, and all she could see was like a white light, and like, I remember flashes of my life, you know. It's crazy. It's like, whoa. The ambulance got there, the fire trucks got there, the police got there, and for some odd reason, this woman didn't want the kids that were walking home from school, who've all witnessed this happen, to see her that way. So instead of waiting for the gurney to come get her, she went straight to the ambulance. She walked herself straight to the ambulance and got in because she didn't want anybody, especially her sister, who ran frantically. And as soon as she saw Jenny's face, she just sat down on the curb, and it was an overwhelming sight. It was something so horrible came out of something so amazing, and it sucks that this had to happen to us. But on with the story. Once the police got there and the ambulance whisked her away, they took her away. They didn't tell me anything. They took pictures, we did interviews, and then I was taken to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, all my family was already on the way. My mom, Jenny, I called her and she screamed and she cried. Everybody got there and everybody was in tears, and nobody believe that this happened to her. And then all of a sudden, the hospital stopped. Everything stopped. And my sister-in-law came out from seeing Jenny, and she said, you need to go back there because they made an announcement over the phone or over the intercom that there was a helicopter coming in and that everybody needed to stay where they were, no incoming traffic. So I ran back there, and sure enough, that helicopter life flight was for my wife, and that was the scariest moment of my life, because you never imagine your wife or anybody in your family that you love is going to be airlifted in life flight with their life on the line. So I stood in that hospital watching them strap her down, crying and crying and crying, and this one looks over to me and says, babe, she messed up my favorite shirt. Like, it was at that moment that I knew she was the love of my life, and I never ever wanted to lose her. So after that night, we came home. She was okay. She was diagnosed with a contusion to the brain from the hit, but everything was going to be okay. So we came home. Family helped out a lot. And the next day, the police came to our house, and they wanted to do a picture lineup because of her condition. So they came in with two pages of lineups, and we did the lineups, and we positively identified the attacker first go. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We knew exactly who she was, what she looked like, and we identified her. That same day, cops went to go arrest her. Well, we found out that she fled with her kids. She pulled her kids out of school and she fled. So she actually did not get caught until 2 months later when she got pulled over for a DUI. So that's basically how she was. Isn't it DUI? No, it's DUI. Oh. I'm just messing. I already know. I love you. So we ended up getting summonses that we needed to go to court. Once that happened, she basically said she didn't do it, like anybody would. They gave her a plea bargain for 4 years, plead guilty, and all you'll get is 4 years. If you plead not guilty and we go to trial, you are putting yourself up for 8 years in prison. And she pleaded not guilty. So we went to trial and jury. We literally did the trial and jury. And obviously we won. She went to jail for 8 years. It was bittersweet, but every single time we walked into that courtroom and we saw those little girls, they hugged us and they thanked us so much. And I think that no matter how the outcome and what happened, I'm so glad that we were there to save those little girls' lives. I'm so glad that my wife was there to save my life. And so now I'm going to tell you how this whole started. From what we know, these two little girls were from Hawaii and they had different names. Well, they were going to middle school in Victorville, and there was a little boy, African-American little boy. I guess he had been picking on the two little girls at school, talking crap about their names because they were different. And I'm guessing this got to a boiling point where the little girls lashed out at the little boy. And he ran home and told his mom. Then his mom rounded up the posse to go and attack and beat up these little girls because they did not appreciate what middle school kids were doing. So that's basically how this whole thing came about. So with that being said, that is basically the story of it. There were some things that did happen to us afterwards with our foster kids. After this incident happened and foster care found out, or the county found out, they tried to get us for child endangerment because of having our foster kids in the car. We had to go through training. We had to go in front of a board and plead our hearts out to keep our kids. We had to have our license suspended for 30 days, and we had to fight to not have our kids taken out of our home. So it was a very trying and hard time. We loved those kids, and if we didn't, we would not have done what we did to help the little girls that were being attacked. So it was such a whirlwind of emotions, and just how can you take our licenses away for saving the lives of children? And we said that, and they just were so adamant about, you had those kids in the car. This isn't something we looked for. This isn't something we drove up and down the street looking for. No, this is just a fluke incident that happened. We just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and so did those little girls. But they didn't deserve what they were getting. No way, shape, or form. And after us helping those little girls, we didn't deserve what we were getting in no way, shape, or form either. But we are doing so good. My wife is doing amazing. She's beautiful. She's got her battle scar. But this is a story really about a hero and about someone who saved the lives of 3 people. So I thank you. I thank you for everything. You're amazing. Bullying is not okay, and it's not okay on any level, whether you're a child, a teenager, or an adult. Especially if you're a parent, you need to be the #1 person to say no, that is not okay. If there is a problem with children at school, you need to take that up with the principal or parents to parents. Don't ever take your kids to a fight. That is not okay. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I hope that you will take this with you and share it. And I hope that you will have learned a little bit from what we went through. I hope that you never have to go through an incident that we went through. And it does stop us now from helping. It does stop us now from helping. But it does not change our hearts in the way we felt about helping those little girls. So with that, thank you guys for being here with us. We appreciate all the love. And we'll see you next time.